Welcome back to Diversion Insights Quick Takes. We're going to talk about canceled transactions today. Canceled transactions are not always innocent, but the bigger problem is that many of us aren't really looking at them in the first place. Here's the asymmetry diverters quietly rely on. Diversion analytics software is built around controlled substance activity. The dashboards, the risk scores, the auto-generated user reports, the thresholds that trigger an alert, almost all of it is oriented toward controlled substance dispenses, waste, discrepancies. That's where the regulatory pressure is, and that's where the vendors built to their value proposition. Cancel transactions don't really fit cleanly into that model. A cancel, by definition, didn't remove inventory. The system sees it essentially as a non-event. Yes, sure, software may assign some risk to a canceled transaction of a controlled substance. And we look at that to see if we can see any patterns, those of us that are looking at the software. But cancels on non-controlled substances, they're not even on the radar at all. They require a proactive approach to view them for trends. And how does one decide when they're going to go look at them for a particular healthcare provider? That's a blind spot. And it's a meaningful one because cancels are exactly the mechanism that enables two of the most dangerous diversion schemes. First one, returning tampered controlled substances. A cancel lets the diverter open the pocket and slip a saline-filled vial back in without the system recording a return or triggering a count check. Substituting a non-controlled substance for a controlled substance is the second one. Pulling and canceling a sedating or inert medication so it never ties to a patient, and then using that in place of the controlled substance that the patient was supposed to receive. Both schemes are nearly invisible if you're only reviewing what the software flags for you. The controlled substance side of the ledger looks normal. The non-controlled substance side is not being watched. And the cancel itself just kind of reads as a, oops, fat finger, didn't mean to do that. But there's a second blind spot that compounds the first, and it lives at the bedside. Think about what it actually takes for a tampered vial scheme to surface through clinical observation alone. A patient receives saline. Let's hope it's at least saline, right? And not dirty water. But they receive saline instead of fentanyl. Their pain isn't controlled. The nurse notes that it was not controlled, but given. And then critically, someone has to connect that single underwhelming response to a broader pattern. But it's a different pattern every time. It's a different nurse each time. It's a different shift, a different diagnosis, a different baseline. Each instance reads as a one-off. The patient has high tolerance. Oh, the pain was worse than we thought. Maybe the IV infiltrated. How many patients have received saline instead of fentanyl before the unit puts the trend together and escalates the issue? In practice, the answer is often a lot over a long time. That's why every staff member with controlled substance access has to be part of the detection system, not just the diversion specialists. Train nurses to assess every controlled substance they dispense for signs of tampering. Vial tops that appear to be punctured or manipulated, vial tops that don't spin freely, fluid that looks a little bit off, packaging that's been compromised. Build that assessment into the workflow as a deliberate step, not an afterthought. One nurse noticing one off-looking vial and reporting it short circuits a pattern that would otherwise take months to emerge through patient outcomes alone. The fix isn't a new tool, it's a habit. Pull cancel data manually as part of your audit. Look at it by user, by shift, and across both controlled and non-controlled substances. Cross-reference cancels against the user's controlled substance administrations and look-alike non-controlled pulls in that same window. The clusters are what tell the story. If you're a diversion specialist who has felt the sting of catching this pattern late, you're in good company. I think I've shared this with you before, but I've been there where it's taken longer to identify than it should have. I've actually audited a nurse over a period of close to 2 years. She had data that looked bad. It was dispenses. Nurse manager didn't think too much of it because of the type of unit that this nurse was in. And of course, there were no complaints, and this was a good nurse, as you often hear. Finally, when I got that nurse manager to take it to the next level, she initiated patient interviews. And 2 patients in the same day said, "No, I didn't get that." That's what prompted me to look further, which I should have done before then. But I saw that in her canceled transactions, this nurse had a ton of canceled transactions. But if I remember correctly, it was about 80% of them were for Tylenol. And that corresponded perfectly to the Norcos and Percocets that I felt that she was diverting. So I learned my lesson at that moment, and I should have learned it a lot sooner. A potential new trend that I've been hearing about, some healthcare professionals have been found with their own bottle of Tylenol, hence eliminating the need for a cancel transaction. How do we ferret that out? Let me know your thoughts, and thanks for listening.